Medieval Christmas, traditional ways and forgotten days. To step into a medieval Christmas is to enter a world both deeply familiar and profoundly strange. A season where devout piety seamlessly coexisted with raucous, often chaotic, celebration. It was a time not of a single day, but a sprawling, 12-day festival that stretched from December 25th to the eve of Epiphany on January 6th. This period, known as Christmastide, or the 12 Days of Christmas, was the social and emotional anchor of the long, dark winter in Northern Europe. It was a sacred time marked by church services and solemn reflection on the Nativity, but it was equally a profane, earthly release from the harsh hierarchies and unrelenting labor of daily life. The medieval Christmas was a complex tapestry woven with threads of Christian doctrine, ancient pagan survival, and robust folk custom, creating a celebration that would be almost unrecognizable to the modern observer. The Christmas season did not begin with a frantic rush in December, but with a period of solemn preparation, Advent. For 4 weeks before Christmas, the medieval Christian was expected to fast, pray, and atone, much like the period of Lent before Easter. This meant a diet devoid of meat, eggs, cheese, and sometimes even dairy. It was a time of spiritual cleansing and anticipation, a deliberate building of tension that would make the ensuing festivities all the more explosive. The atmosphere began to shift dramatically on Christmas Eve, when the fast reached its peak, and was then broken with the first feast of the season, often featuring a modest but celebratory meal of fish, porridge, or in wealthier households, more elaborate dishes. The celebration truly erupted on December 25th. The day began not with the tearing open of wrapped gifts, but with the most important Mass of the year, the Christmas Day Mass. Churches, often unheated and dark for much of the year, would be filled with light from candles and decorated with evergreen boughs of holly, ivy, and bay, a conscious Christian appropriation of pagan symbols of eternal life intended to ward off the evil spirits believed to be active during the darkest days of the year. The service itself was a vibrant, communal affair, often incorporating early forms of liturgical drama, where priests and choir boys would reenact the story of the shepherds visiting the manger, making the divine story accessible to a largely illiterate population. Following the church service, the real business of the day began: feasting. For the nobility and gentry, the Christmas feast was an unparalleled display of wealth, power, and hospitality. The centerpiece of the banquet was, without question, meat. While the modern Christmas is synonymous with turkey, a bird unknown in Europe before the 16th century, the medieval table groaned under the weight of boar, venison, swan, peacock, and above all, the Christmas pie. This was not a sweet dessert, but a colossal, savory coffin of pastry containing a turkey-sized fowl stuffed into a goose, which was in turn stuffed into a chicken, all packed with spices and other meats. Peacocks and swans were often served endored, skinned, roasted, and then redressed in their feathers with their tails fanned out, a stunning spectacle of culinary vanity. For the poorer peasantry, a Christmas feast was a much rarer and more precious event. A piece of bacon or a chicken might be the rare luxury that marked the day, but the spirit of celebration, fueled by specially brewed Christmas ale, was just as fervent. The social world was turned upside down. A defining feature of the medieval Christmas was the Lord of Misrule, a figure elected to preside over the festivities in great households, universities, and even the royal court itself. This lord was often a commoner or a low-ranking servant, given temporary authority to command his social superiors in a whirlwind of games, revels, and chaotic rule-breaking. This sanctioned inversion of the social order served as a vital pressure valve, allowing the lower classes to mock and temporarily overturn the rigid feudal hierarchy, thereby reinforcing its normal power once the 12 days were over. It was a time when the master might serve the servant, and foolishness was prized over wisdom. Gift-giving did occur, but not on Christmas Day. The traditional day for presents was New Year's Day, a custom inherited from the Roman festival of Calends. These gifts, or Christmas boxes, were often practical rather than sentimental. A lord might give his retainers a piece of clothing, a tool, or a small sum of money. Among the wealthy, more lavish gifts were exchanged to cement political alliances and display generosity. A sense of communal charity was also expected. The great halls of manors were thrown open to the poor, who could come to receive alms and scraps from the Lord's table, a practice known as wassailing. Wassailing was a central and vibrant tradition. The term comes from the Old English toast, "Wise hail," meaning, "Be you healthy." A large carved wooden bowl filled with a heated spiced ale or cider, the wassail, would be passed around. Pieces of toasted bread were often floated in it, a practice that may be the origin of our phrase, "a toast." Groups of wassailers, often the poorer members of the community, would travel from house to house, singing carols, which were originally circle dances, not just songs, and offering a drink from their bowl in exchange for food, drink, or money. This was more than simple begging. It was a ritual of communal bonding and a wish for good health and fortune in the coming year. In the orchards, wassailing took on a more pagan tone, with processions going to the apple trees, singing to them, pouring cider on their roots, and making loud noises to wake the trees from their winter slumber and scare away evil spirits, ensuring a good harvest. The festivities did not end on New Year's Day. The final and perhaps most magical day of Christmastide was Epiphany Eve, or 12th night, on January 5th. This night celebrated the arrival of the Magi, but it was also the culmination of the season's revelry and the last gasp of Misrule. It was a time for elaborate masks, plays, and one final, glorious feast. A special 12th cake was baked, and within it would be hidden a dried pea or a bean. Whoever found it in their slice would be crowned the king or queen of the feast, ruling over the night's entertainment. The line between the sacred and the superstitious was thin. It was considered profoundly unlucky for the Christmas greenery to remain in the house after 12th night, and it was all hastily taken down and burned to ward off misfortune. When the sun rose on Epiphany morning, the world snapped back into place. The Lord of Misrule's reign was over, the decorations were gone, and the long, hard work of winter resumed. The medieval Christmas was a profound and necessary interlude. It was a spiritual journey from anticipation to celebration, a social experiment in inverted hierarchy, and a communal effort to collectively defy the darkness and cold. It bound society together through shared ritual, from the lord in his hall to the peasant in his humble cottage. In its unique blend of sacred devotion and profane celebration, it reveals a medieval world that was not a dark age, but a complex society with a rich emotional and cultural life, finding light, warmth, and community in the heart of winter.